Hi guys, just wanted to share with you today how I make my boho / paper beads. I've been kind of back recently doing a lot of the boho style ones. There's a few, I'll show you these, there's quite a few here. So these, I think most of these have the base of handmade paper. There are some here, for instance this one, the base is a straw, just a normal drinking straw like this, and I've used, in this case I've used the bend of the straw and then wrapped various things around that. I think that's actually the paper string that I've stretched out. That is using this to wrap round that first, and then I have used a bead on either end. I haven't stabilized this at all because it's just wrapped so tight with the paper that it still really feels firm, so I haven't needed to put anything else in the middle. And then I've just used seed beads and various other things, and a different bead on the end too. And then the other thing I've used with this is this type of wire, which is the stretchy stuff, which is really cool. So there's various different ones. Then again, this is the same thing. I've added this is another straw, but I've got end caps on that one, and then a sorted wire. I don't think in any of these I've actually used a thick wire, so the thickest has been this type of wire. This is the stretchy slinky wire again, which comes in all sorts of colours, and I have at this point added a bell onto it. But all of these you can make into charms, so you can keep add lots of things to it, or it can be used in jewellery, all sorts of things. This is just the starting point really. This one's a lot bigger one, so this one again was handmade paper, and then I've used fibres and beads and wire with that one, and I think that is also not just using that, that's also using this type of wire, which is like crinkled, and then various different ones. That's just wire, and that's different things, fabric, it's jute in there, all sorts of things. Another one that I've used beads on the end, but effectively there's that's fibres, I think. I've also, in a couple, if I can work out which ones they are, I think, no, that's handmade paper. I think this one might have been, this one is using Pink Poodle's ideas, so check her out on YouTube. She's used like a kebab stick, which I would call it kebab stick. These, I forget what we had these for, but not for kebabs. So, and she's chopped these to whatever length and then wrapped them with wire initially, so that you can create the hook on either end. Wire all the way around the base, the wood, and then added the beads and the cloth, etc. But that's really worth watching. And also the other one is Secret Soto. She has some really good videos on YouTube, and I also got inspiration from her using the straws, etc. So yeah, these are all sorts of different ones. You can curl the wire. This is kind of from, that's a different shape bead that I've used, so I've done that differently, obviously either end. Loads of different options here. Handmade paper lends itself to it because it's so kind of quite robust, so it's quite thick. This is another one. I think I've just used the handmade paper and then threaded the seed beads along. You can use, so I start off like this, and I use a this is actually a similar batik paper, but I just cut a strip of handmade paper. Now, depending on how wide you want the bead, so for instance, if you're going to put end caps on it, that depends on how wide your end caps are that you need to cut the paper down. But this length here, approximately, I think it's probably about 100 mils, maybe. Not sure. No more than that. About 150 mils, that length. And obviously you cut them to whatever width you want. But because it's quite thick, you don't necessarily, if you want to put end caps on, that might be too thick to use. Basically, you don't even need, I do use a toothpick often when I'm doing this style bead, but with these you don't need to. You can literally just roll it. I roll it first and then put the wire in afterwards. So you roll it like this and then you glue this down. Handmade paper is quite tricky to glue. You need a really fast drying glue. But what I do is I glue it and then I use one of these, like a wrong way around, one of these bulldog clips, and that will hold it in place. When you've glued it, it will. So once you put the glue on, there you go. So that works for that. And then, as I say, the wire will just go through the centre, literally, so you don't have to wire it first. And then from there, you will do the next stage. So you put your wire through, then you will do the next stage, which would be putting your end caps on, if that's what you want to do. With this one, I have just put beads on either end because it's really solid. This one, again, beads on the end. I've just started to work on this one, so I've wrapped a bit of, glued a bit of fabric to it, and then I've started to wrap the wire. It's another one with end caps. And this one is using handmade paper, and then plus on top of that I've decided to add other things like little mini strips of paper, and this has beads on the end, like little flower beads. So that would be the starting point. If I'm doing this style bead, the boho style bead, I don't then normally glaze it, but you can glaze if you're just doing a normal handmade paper bead. You can glaze them, and it does make them a lot more durable, and they're a lot more firm, I would say. They're more solid. I use this one, the Judykins Diamond Glaze. Because it's handmade paper, it does tend to soak in a bit, so sometimes you might need to do 2 glazes, or you could do a Mod Podge glaze first and then a diamond glaze, or 2 Mod Podge, or even actually a PVA. If you just literally cover it in PVA, that will seal it, and then you can put the diamond glaze over the top of it. But you can use all sorts with making this style bead. There is so much that you can do, and it can be used for charms on your journals. It can be used for jewelry, all sorts of things. It's endless, and these I've done pretty similar because I just had the stuff in front of me, so I just was working from what I had, so I haven't gone and bought anything. I've just used what I had. So you have the choices. You can use a straw, you could use a kebab stick, cut down and then wind the wire round it like Pink Poodle Crafts does. So you wind it round it, create your loop on each end, and then you start to build on it. That's quite a fun way of doing it as well. As I say, I have done some with straws. The handmade paper, if you wrap it enough, it builds it up anyway, and so it does make it quite firm. But then all you need basically is a little tub next to you of all of these odds and sods that you can put on it. I've even done some there with wrapping skeleton leaves on them. There's bark, there's fibres, there's jute. This was literally what was by my workstation, so I haven't picked anything else out. But you can put netting on it. It's just endless. You start looking around and you realise how many things that you can put on it. So these are the handmade beads done another way. And then these are the normal, that's handmade paper bead. These are just from magazines mostly. These I think were quilling strips, but otherwise most of these here are just normal paper beads, and they're, as I say, from magazines. But you can see the difference wrapping a small piece of handmade paper to the thickness in when you're using a magazine makes a big difference. These are easier to coat if you want to glaze, and to put adhesive on, they're a lot easier. But you could also make like your end beads, so if you wanted, you could also you know, make your own beads for the ends. It's just, this is all done from scraps. This is mostly done from, apart from these, they're all done from just little bits of magazine. And then I have a tub of mixed beads by me, so that I've got inspiration to pick out various different colours or whatever I want to do. I use also the little ones like this, and all sorts of different things. You can add charms on them to the bottom, you know, especially the bigger ones. You could easily add, you know, make more layers on it effectively, and it could hang down like this. You could make it into a necklace and put a chain either side, and have charms hanging from the bead itself. But yeah, great fun. Once you get started, that's it. I can't stop. But it's just different fun ways that you can create from really hardly anything. You just need, obviously you need a couple of jewellery tools. You'll need round nose pliers to do the loops. I don't use a lot. I use this one. I do use these ones as well, because they're really sturdy ones, and if I really need to squash anything or crimp anything, that works. And then some cutters. Obviously don't use your best scissors. I have got old scissors that I use to cut the thinner wire. But yeah, great fun. I have a huge selection of wires to use. So, I mean, I've also got this style wire, which again is crinkled. It's not quite the same crinkle as the other one, but again, I don't know if you can see that, but that's crinkled. The fun really is kind of mixing all the different ones up. You can use a traditional, of course, traditional jewellery wires as well. Whoops. This is a lot thicker. I just find it easier to use the other ones, and they seem stable enough because you're making them quite stable by what you're putting on them. So I hope you've enjoyed this video today. I will leave a link below. I have got handmade paper and this type of wire available in my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link below, and I'll try and remember to leave if I can find the link, for Pink Poodle and for Secret Soto, but otherwise check them out on YouTube and subscribe to their channels. And as I say, if you've liked this video, if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.